my heart just dropped. My hands just immediately got so sweaty, and I was just not prepared to hear that. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm very excited to film today's video. I've been wanting to do it for a while and just really needed to find the time to sit down to gather my thoughts and to talk through my birth story with you guys. So today I'm going to be covering everything that happened for my birth, my labor and delivery, whatever you want to call it. The reason why Mr. Thomas is here today, he's sleeping on me, so hopefully that lasts for the remainder of this video. But yeah, let's just get right into it. Thomas is my first baby. This was my first delivery, first time mom, and I had, of course, a birth plan and expectations of how things might go, but it already started not going to plan when I went overdue. So I was 31 weeks when I went in for my last appointment, which is what led to my labor and delivery. So let's just start there. That's kind of where this story begins. I was going in for an appointment at my OB's, and she does a stress test on me. If you don't know what that is, they attach like a band to your belly and they test to see baby's movements in relation to their heart rate and just make sure baby's not, I guess, stressed out in there, that everything's good, the baby's moving like an appropriate amount of times, and that their heart rate is steady and healthy. So it's kind of weird because they leave you in that room for like 10 minutes on your own just with this belly band while you're watching the charts just track everything, and you don't really know what it means. And I even I have this video because I sent it to Rudy when I was in there and just like update him on what was happening. So I'll include that here, but yeah, so I'm just waiting for this stress test to finish up, and then the doctor comes back in, she looks at it, and she kind of just starts like explaining what's happening on the chart. So his heart rate was like totally good, and then every once in a while you just see these little divots in the heart rate. So it would go like down, it would drop down randomly. And she guessed that had something to do with the umbilical cord. Little did we know, like, I guess I will spoil it, but his umbilical cord was wrapped around his head 4 times, which is really scary. But yeah, she kind of predicted it based off of the heart rate, but she didn't tell me that, and she didn't know that much. She only knew that there's probably something up with the umbilical cord, and also his fluid levels, the fluid levels were low in there. So she says to me, she's like, Courtney, I want you to deliver this baby today or tomorrow. She's like, and I definitely don't want you to go past the weekend. So this was a Friday at this point, so she wanted me to deliver latest by Sunday. My heart just dropped. My hands just immediately got so sweaty, and I was just not prepared to hear that because I was very blessed. Up until this point, I had had the most uneventful pregnancy. Everything came back clean. I didn't have even an iron deficiency. Like, I was healthy on every single test, and so I really just thought to myself that I would give birth the most natural way, which is like my body would just go into labor and I'd break my water at home and stuff like that. Things were going so smoothly for me, and up until this point that my OB tells me, like, you have to go to the hospital now. So essentially I would have to get induced, and yeah, I'm also, oh my gosh, I'm skipping details. Okay, so I go to the OB, she does the stress test. She also checks my dilation. So she checked me and I was at like a 2.5. She said, you're so close to a 3. She's like, do you want me to do a membrane sweep? And I said, yes. She kind of informed me that I was a good candidate for being induced and that she highly recommended I do that, but that it was ultimately up to me. When I got to the hospital, I could decide, because I was already at a 3 pretty naturally. So she tried to encourage me that the induction would be maybe smoother because of that. So anyway, so that's everything at the OB. I then call Rudy, except I can't because of this stupid little detail. So the week, like days leading up to this appointment, we happened to just switch my phone carrier to a different provider. And that day, my phone was acting weird. Like I couldn't make any calls. But then after I got this news, I go to call Rudy. I can't call Rudy. So then I'm texting him. And it just like really added a layer of stress to this whole thing. Obviously it worked out. He came home. He was at the gym, I was at the doctor's appointment. We meet at home. He's up to date on everything and we're just like packing the hospital bag to go to the hospital. So I'm trying to stay calm, but at this point I'm definitely already quite discouraged that I'm probably gonna be induced because that was not something I wanted. Just a quick rundown, I wanted to essentially avoid as much intervention as possible. I was going into it not wanting an epidural. I was okay with like other pain management options, but just really wanting to avoid the epidural and avoid induction, avoid Pitocin. Yeah, I wanted to be able to walk around and not be hooked up to too many things. And I just wanted it to feel like I was in control and like it was a very natural process and I wanted my body to take the lead. So that's kind of what I was hoping for. So going into the hospital knowing that I'm probably gonna get induced, I was already a little bit discouraged. But anyway, we get there. I'm also quite excited because I was 31 weeks and I was totally over being 31 weeks pregnant. But we get there, we get checked into the room and the doctor comes in and long story short, she tells me like, you know, we can get you on Pitocin right now and then you can have this baby in the next 20-ish hours. She didn't say that exactly, but some of the nurses kind of guessed how long it would take. I asked them and it was about 20-ish hours. So I kind of went back and forth on it. We ended up getting some food delivered to the room and then I got on Pitocin because I heard it can make you nauseous. So then we started on the Pitocin and my labor started to progress. So I started to feel the contractions. Up until this point, I didn't feel a single contraction. I felt very much like I wasn't even in labor. I felt like I shouldn't even be in a hospital. I felt totally fine. But once they hooked me up onto the Pitocin, then I started to feel it and it does just feel like period cramps in the beginning. I was fine with it. I was like, okay, I can do this. You know, it was a little bit of, like it's nice that the contractions come and then they stop, right? And then they also come on slowly-ish. So in the beginning, it's really not that bad. And so we kind of turned up the Pitocin levels. So if you're unfamiliar, they can manage the dosage that they're giving you. So they can put you anywhere, I forget what the range is, but let's just say from like 0 to 10. So they had me sitting at, it was on the lower end, I can't remember, but let's just say like a 3. And then every 30-ish minutes, they'd turn it up to a 4, to a 5, and then they stop it at whatever dose is working to get your body to kick in to naturally like start progressing in labor.
Can I say something?
Yeah, Rudy's over there.
It goes, so to milligrams, I think, I don't know if it's milligrams, but it's the units. And they started her at 2, and then they can go up to 30 to get you to actually like contract. 30 is like really high. I think the highest you went up to was 8.
But I don't think I was at 8 very long. I feel like
you were at 2 for a little bit, and then we went to 3, and then 4, and then 6, and then this was like 10 hours in, and then we went to 8 for like an hour or 2. But then her contractions were like every 45 seconds and really, really tense, so they brought it down. So essentially they're just trying to get you to contract like every 60 seconds kind of steady. So they went down to like 6 and then 5. And then towards the end, her body started to contract more naturally. So they brought it down to like 4. So it was, they start you off and they ramp it up and then they kind of see where you balance out. 8 is not that high, but it just depends. Every person's kind of different from what.
And they kind of left, I feel like they kind of left me at like between a 4 and a 6 most of the time, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, you were at like a 4, 6 for the longest period of time. You did get up to 8 and then they brought it down when it was like too much. I actually asked them, I'm like, too much, and they were like, okay. So the harder it's like, you have to manage like how much pain and how hard the contractions are versus like how much you can bear and for how long. So it's kind of like, you do want to contract, but you don't want it to be too much, but you do want it to essentially keep getting more intense because that's what brings the baby.
Right.
Anyway, sorry for interrupting.
No, thank you for that. Honestly,
I remember a lot more than Courtney.
He remembers a lot more than me, so maybe I should even be doing this video with him, but I feel like I know the gist and I know, I mean, I was there. I was the one doing it, so I know enough.
Very primal, animalistic. You're not really in control. Things are just happening.
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
It definitely is kind of just happening to you. So for the majority of my labor, I feel like I was in a state of trying to mentally manage the physical and mental of it all. So I did go the whole way without an epidural, which is by the grace of God at the end there, because it was very, very hard. That's like just the easiest, most simple way to put it, is that it is so hard to deny yourself that epidural at the very end. But I'd say for a lot of it, it's manageable if you have the right people around you and you are in a mental place of really not wanting to budge on getting the epidural. You can't be in the gray zone of like, oh, I'll get it if the pain is bad. The pain is gonna be bad. But you have to have your reasons. I don't know if I'm gonna include this in the video, but my personal reasons for not wanting the epidural were mainly based off of stories that I had been told from people I know personally in my life who have lasting side effects from having gotten the epidural. I think it just affects everyone differently. I was even talking to one of my labor and delivery nurses about it, and she didn't, have any rebuttals to some of the things that I was saying. And so it's not widely plastered all over the place out there. And I think it's because in this country, a lot of women get the epidural and there's a lot of push for it from the medical industry, but I think there are risks that come with it. And so I just wanted to avoid those risks. If possible, deal with the pain for 20 hours rather than having a lifelong side effect. So in my brain, I had that, I hung on to that, and I just really didn't want to budge. And yeah, that's kind of what got me through. I think if you're in a gray zone, then you will probably cave and get it. And I have seriously no judgment for women who do, because it's incredibly hard and painful. But anyway, what? Hello. Stop interrupting me. So some of the things that helped me the most that I can remember doing for just hours on end when I was about halfway through, like between a 4 and a 7, let's say. I loved the birthing ball, and I would kind of like sway on it back and forth, and I'd be next to the bed. And so I'd have my forearms on the bed, I'm sitting on the birthing ball, and I'd kind of sway on it. And if the contraction got really intense, I'd actually stand. I found that I could absolutely not sit still. I had to be swaying or standing or moving to some degree during a contraction. I could not be sitting still or laying down ever, honestly, during this whole process. But I could not be sitting still during a contraction. Which gets kind of hard towards the end there because you are so tired. But that's where I said having a team is really helpful, because Rudy would like help pick me up so that I could stand and not be exhausting my legs so much. It's like you're kind of in a constant squat in a way. But that position was really great for me. I also really liked being on all fours, and the hospital beds move, so they would tilt the hospital bed up. I was on all fours, and again, like my forearms were kind of at the top of the hospital bed, so I could like rest my head. Rudy or my nurse would squeeze my hips. That definitely helps. At first I didn't feel like it made much of a difference or that I really needed it, but I think when I was at like 6, 7, 8, that's when the squeezing of the hips is really nice. Also, heat packs were my best friend. I went through, I think, all of their heat packs. I constantly had 2 of them on my lower back the entire time. That's a really good, like, med-free pain relief option. I honestly find that anything that can just distract you from that physical feeling, so heat is nice, someone like touching you, squeezing you is nice, and then at the very end, I went to the shower, like water is nice. Anything, I know people do like the combs, I imagine those would have been helpful. I didn't have those though. But the heat packs I used pretty much the entire time. So I went from like being on that birthing ball to being on all fours, and we just like let me dilate until I was about an 8, and then things started getting pretty rough for me. I think once I was at an 8, that was the last time I got checked before being at a 10. So it felt like it had taken absolutely forever to get to an 8, and I just was pretty much at my wit's end mentally. I was wanting to sleep and couldn't, obviously. And that's when I got into the shower. I kind of wanted to save the shower for, I don't know, this whole process, it takes so long. I feel like you can't use all the tricks in the bag right away or you'll have nothing left to help you get through the pain later on. So I went into the shower when I was at an 8, and that was even my nurse's recommendation. They even put a stool in there for me because I couldn't stand at this point. So I'm in the shower, and I don't know why, but the water both helped me and really annoyed me and distracted me from what I was trying to do. So mentally, I just got into this place of basically not even being on this planet anymore. If you've given birth, you'll understand. You get into a mental space of just trying to cope with the pain, not fight it, because if you're tense, you don't dilate at all. You're just kind of in this strange like la la land of this pain. It's you and the contractions, and time does not exist, and I don't even want to know the time, and you're just trying to get through to the end. So once I got into the shower, the water was both helpful, but sometimes it would like get me out of that place, and then I felt like I could feel the pain that much more, whereas you just kind of want to like numb it. Okay, I feel like this video is going to be all over the place because my camera keeps having weird issues, and now I just had to stop to help him a little bit. But I think what I was saying is the shower really helped me towards the end because it was a distraction from like the physical pain, as long as I could stay in that mental state of kind of being in like a cloud, like my own little cloud. So it was kind of funny because I had Rudy next to me. He would help me stand during a contraction. Hold on, I need to help him. So Rudy would be there next to me. He was turning the water on and off based off of what I was telling him, because sometimes the water would help me and sometimes it would distract me. So he was just over there turning the water on and off. Also, he was told by one of the nurses at this point that I was getting pretty close. So if I ever told him that I feel like I'm about to poop, then I was probably at a 10 and could start pushing. So that was definitely when I started to get that feeling of like, I need to poop, but I didn't want to say it until I was really, really sure. So I honestly really should be here next to me because the time frame, I didn't want to know the time frame, so I don't even know how long I was in the shower, maybe like an hour or 2. But that's when I got to a 10. I didn't know it yet though, so I thought I was still at an 8. I didn't know how long I'd been in there. And that's when I finally broke and said to Rudy, like, I need the epidural. I can't do it anymore. The pain is through the roof. So he tells the nurse comes in and she's like, okay, let me check you first. So they check me, and that's when I was at a 10. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. I was at a 10, but that's when the pain was just so bad. I had a hard time even laying on the bed. I did push on my back. I was like slightly on my side. That's just the position they put me in. At that point, I was not gonna like argue over my pushing position. Like that was fine, I don't care. And that's when we started pushing. So I think pushing took 30 minutes. It was pretty quick for me, and that is because of the umbilical cord. So going into it, all the doctors, all the nurses knew what I knew from the OB appointment. So we all had a feeling that the umbilical cord could have been wrapped around his neck. Once they were able to see it while I was pushing, they could see that it had multiple wraps. So I essentially had to get him out of me as quickly as possible, because every time he was, moving down, it's like a noose around his neck, and it was seriously lowering his heart rate. That was the scariest part of the entire thing for myself, especially for Rudy, because he was mentally there and I was just like almost passed out. I felt like I couldn't even really realize what was happening, but I did know that I had to push really fast. I will say this, if you are trying to go natural, it's a very different feeling when you're pushing compared to the rest of the time. So the rest of the time you are like managing the pain. You're kind of not even really give them a lot of attention, and you're just trying to ride them like a wave is what I've heard people say. That is what you're doing. You're just trying to like, ooh, let them come, let them go, not even be an active participant in the contractions. It's best way I can put it. When you're pushing, it's the absolute opposite. You are an active participant in the contractions. When the contraction comes and you're in that intense pain, that is when you then push as hard as you can, literally like you are pushing out a poop. Like you're just, but as hard as you can. And so I think that was really hard because for 21 and a half hours, I was in the state of like, ooh, just let it go, like flowy wave, ride it like a wave. And then when you get to the pushing stage, you have to completely flip a switch and you're trying to push through the contraction. I know I just said that twice, but it was a weird mental switch, and I want to highlight that because I had a hard time. I think my first 3 pushes were not doing anything because I was still treating the contraction like I had previously, and then they kind of put me in like a ball crunching position, and that really helped me physically understand, okay, I need to like bear down and like physically push with all my might. And even Rudy was helping with that. He was like pushing me into a crunching position so that I could push even harder. And like I said, I was so mentally just not even really there anymore from the pure exhaustion that it was really hard, and it was incredibly scary because it almost ended in an emergency C-section. No one said this, we didn't have to go there, but if he had not had come out quickly and his heart rate got too low, that's just what would have happened. So I think after like 25-ish minutes, this is the only vivid memory I have from the pushing stage. Rudy came up next to me. Sorry if you can hear him breathing funny while he's sleeping. Rudy came up next to me and he goes, babe, you need to push, like your life depends on it, like your baby's life depends on it right now. And he just said that to me with such a straight face. I knew that there was essentially his life on the line, and I could kind of tell like if I couldn't get the job done, then I'd probably be wheeled into a C-section room. And I think God coming through and just giving me this like burst of strength in that moment is the only reason that I could get him out. And I really just needed to get the head out. I'm like getting emotional, but this was a very scary moment of the whole thing. I got the head out, and then the doctor was able to like kind of maneuver the rest of his body out. And then he was born, and it was beautiful, and we didn't even know it was a boy. And then the other vivid memory I have, it's like Rudy came up to me and he goes, it's a boy. And I remember his smile and he was so excited. And yeah, so that's when Thomas entered the world. He was really long, 21 and a half inches at birth and basically 8.5 pounds. So he was a big boy and he was totally healthy. The one scary thing about him having such a low heart rate and having the umbilical cord was they kind of rushed him away right away. So it wasn't like he came out of me and then they put him on my chest. They had to take him away. They had to kind of wake him up because his heart rate was so low. So I don't really know what they do, but I imagine they like rub him. I heard them like squeezing all the gunk out of his throat and out of his nose and stuff, but I'm laying there on the bed. I'm not seeing any of this. Rudy told me some of this. And then they stitched me up because I did tear, because I had to push him out so fast. I got a 2nd degree tear. I will tell you, if you go natural and don't get an epidural, those tears, it doesn't even matter. At least that was my experience. I didn't feel myself tearing. I mean, because you just feel the baby coming out, like pain is pain. And you're in such pain, like prior to even the pushing point, it's like literally pain is pain. I didn't feel any bit of like tearing, I don't know. And even them stitching me up, they do give some lidocaine, so it's numb, and it was totally fine. I wouldn't be worried about tearing. But yeah, so they were stitching me up, and it wasn't until after they finished stitching me up and pressing on my stomach and getting the placenta out and all that, did I get him on my chest. But when I did, it was so wonderful and really makes it all worth it. And my mom delivered me naturally, so she told me to hold on to this, which is once the baby's out, all the pain is gone. You can even walk around, like you will feel just this rush of joy and relief. And that is very true. Once it was over, and he was here, and it was beautiful, and it makes you definitely feel like you can do it again, but it is hard, and I am worried, and I don't actually know what I will do next time. A lot of women like might get an epidural one time, might not another time. Like, I'm not gonna put any sort of limit on myself. I don't know what I'll do next time, but I will try to not get the epidural again like I did this time. And yeah, I mean, you can do it, because I feel like I'm talking to women who are interested in like going natural. So sorry for my cheesy motivation, but that's kind of my purpose for this video. I want to tell you that you can do it. First and foremost, this is how women gave birth for thousands and thousands of years, and they didn't have the option to not feel the pain. So we can absolutely do it as women. It's written in the Bible. It's said that it will be painful, but also that children are such a blessing, and it's obviously worth it. It's just kind of like the reward at the end is like your prize, and the pain that you go through is something that really, for me, puts a life into perspective of how precious it is and how hard it is to earn a life on this earth. It's such a miracle, first and foremost, to conceive, then to have a healthy pregnancy and carry your baby for nearly 10 months, and then to deliver. None of that is easy. It is all hard. Things can go wrong all along the way. If you can get through all of that, you get your baby as the prize. It's like, it just makes you appreciate the child that much more. I almost think that that's why God designed this to be the way it is. It's like incredibly bonding experience, and that's not to say if you get an epidural you're not bonded to your baby. It's not what I'm trying to say, but I am trying to put out there that I think there's a reason that women give birth in this way. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful. It felt kind of scatterbrained for me because I had to stop so many times to help him. We were just having a lot of issues, but I think I told the story for the most part. I was just watching back the clips a little bit, and I totally glazed over when I was talking about pain management. So I got the heat packs, yes, but I did also get some, essentially it was like morphine, but that's not what it is, through the IV. And I did that when I was, I think, starting at like 5, 6. And they don't let you get it past when you're 7, because then it can be too much in your bloodstream and affect your baby during actual like the pushing stage. So I did get that kind of in the middle stages there, and that really helped. It basically just made me feel very drunk, and so I could still feel all the pain, but you know, mentally you're just a little more disconnected from it. So I would put that out there. If you feel like it's an epidural or nothing, it's not. You do also have other options. There is also like the laughing gas that you can get. But yeah, that is my story. I really hope it helps. I hope it encourages you if you are thinking of going natural, if you're wanting to avoid an epidural, that it encourages you that you can absolutely do it. And even if your birth plan doesn't completely go to plan like mine did, I still had to get induced. I just want you to know you can still get through it. It is a mental thing kind of at the end of it, because your body's gonna do what it needs to do to get the baby out. So it's you and it's the baby and it's God. If you are a believer, then lean on him and ask for strength and pray. We prayed during the process too. Good luck, you can do it, mama. And if you guys have any questions, I will be in the comment section and you can just let me know. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I don't usually do videos like this. If you want to subscribe, I usually do like vlog style videos. You can stick around and see more of my life and Tommy and Rudy. And yeah, see you guys next time. Bye.